Welcome to School Talk, Connecting Parents to Possibilities. I'm Dr. Connie Ellis, your host for this show, and I want to thank our wonderful sponsor, SPH Marketing. This is a series on the gifted children, and we thank SPH Marketing for their support. And my guest today is Susan Majors. She is a parent liaison for the Sarasota Public Schools. Welcome, Susan. We're glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Connie. Thanks.
And we talk today, this segment's on gifted. How do you help with the gifted? What kinds of things go on?
Well, typically with the Parent Liaison Program as part of the schools, we focus on students who have disabilities. But there are children who are what we call twice exceptional. They are a gifted child in addition to having a disability. And so our program works with those families, and it's gosh, I blew this. Sorry, guys. So anyway, our program works with gifted children who have disabilities. There's two kinds of plans that the school district writes for children who are gifted. If they are gifted without a disability, they get a plan called an EP, or an education plan, and that focuses on highly individualized goals on that child's area of strength or their giftedness. Now, if the child happens to be what we call twice exceptional, where they are gifted and they have a disability, then they would get something called an IEP, or an individual education plan. And that falls under the federal law for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and those are the children that I typically work with.
And I think people are surprised to realize that maybe gifted do have some learning disabilities. That can happen.
Absolutely. I mean, children have areas of strengths and sometimes they have areas of challenge. And so we need to make sure that as a school system that we're looking at the child's whole needs. And it's become a difficult time in the world of the twice exceptional learner. We've had some significant law changes since 2004 in the federal law that governs children with disabilities, and they have changed the criteria for how a child is identified as a student with a specific learning disability.
Now, can you mention some of those changes?
I can. One of the biggest changes is, in the past, we've always used what we call a discrepancy model. So we look at the child's IQ score. So say their IQ might have been 130. And then we look at their other academic testing and how they process information. And if there was a big discrepancy in those numbers, typically at least 15 points lower, then we would look, does this child have a learning disability? And the law has changed now that we are not just looking at that discrepancy model. We have to look at how the child responds to interventions. And they also are looking at only how the child is doing against their grade level peers and the grade level curriculum. And that has become a real challenge for kids who are in gifted programs, because oftentimes they are working at an accelerated level. Right. And so the dilemma becomes, how do we make sure that we serve all of this child's needs?
And so who is monitoring this? I mean, this takes some time to observe the child. And
it does. And so typically when a team gets together to look at a child's needs, a school team, which includes the parents, we do some standardized testing, we look at school-based performance, and we try to really look at that whole child. And in the past, we've always been able to write a plan that addresses that child's whole needs. With these new changes in the law, though we can still address the child's gifted needs through an EP plan, once they're identified as gifted, the current interpretation by the state of Florida that has trickled down to our local districts, it really leads it to it's going to be very difficult for us to identify a child's learning disability and get them the appropriate services to help with that.
I'm having a hard time understanding that. Why would that be?
I think this law is so new, and everybody is trying to figure out what does it mean in education. And I've talked with folks at the state of Florida, and they are really trying to work through this still. And they do not have clear answers that I have been able to get. But the interpretation that has come down is if a child is gifted, that they will not be getting service under a learning disability any longer. And I think this is something that parents of gifted children really need to take a look at. And I think it's going to take a concerted effort of parents to look at how this is being interpreted and making sure that we're really focused on the whole child.
Well, now what's something specific that parents can do then?
Well, I think it's really going to take advocacy. Parents need to become familiar with the rules and the laws in their district. They need to be part of parent groups. They need to, one of the things that Child Connections does is help families connect in the community and work together on issues that are affecting our children. And it may become that we need to have pressure to make sure that the school districts have the right rules in place so that they can help the whole child. And
Susan, you mentioned Child Connections. Give them that website, because that is an important website for this type of...
We're very excited that Child Connections is sponsoring this, and parents can reach them at www.childconnections.org. And one of the features actually for this month is that they're asking parents of gifted children to share their stories. They can share their success stories with gifted education, and if there's challenges parents are facing, they could share those also. And the whole point of this is to bring the community together so we're working in the best interest of children.
Yes, and what I love about this www.childconnections.org, any parent, because there are many parents out there that maybe don't have access to the information, and they can look it up. And I want to tell you, I bet a lot of parents go to the library to look up this, because some parents don't have computers in the home, and there's always help available out there.
Absolutely.
And talking about the learning, I am concerned about this, hearing that maybe there's some changes in assisting the gifted when they have learning disabilities. Does this mean lack of services in that area, do you think?
Potentially. I think that states across the nation are looking at this issue. Colorado seems to be a leader in trying to figure this whole, how do we serve the whole child? And I know that Florida is looking at how are they going to interpret this, and how are we going to give directions to the school district. So I think that parents are going to have to be vigilant. They're going to have to be advocates for their individual child, and I think they're going to have to come together to really make sure that as a community we're making the right choices.
So as advocates, they definitely need to let their local officials know that they're staying up on things.
Absolutely.
And that makes a big difference.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Susan Majors, Parent Liaison. Thank you very much. I know you're a wonderful addition and a wonderful support to our parents and our community. And we thank you for watching School Talk. We are the connection, and we do present possibilities.